Hello and welcome to the 110th episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. And I want to jump in, Jay, since I was at the Columbia, South Carolina regionals.
Yes.
And I got to see Virginia and I got to see Duke and Oklahoma and a number of other teams. But what I'm going to eat a little crow. Because, first of all, Taco, who I was down on, showed me something against.
He played great.
He played really, really well. He was not intimidated. And you know what, Jason? Brought me back memories of Manute Bol, that he can't do a lot of things, but he can do some things really well.
Yes.
And what he did is he disrupted that offense.
Without a doubt.
He really disrupted that offense. The bookies were 3-1 that he wouldn't get dunked on. So if anybody made that bet, that was a wise bet because he didn't get dunked on. He altered a lot of shots. He made some dumb fouls. I mean, he didn't help himself some of the fouls he made because if you put your arms straight up in the air as tall as he is, that's all he has to do.
Right.
He doesn't need to come down with his arms.
And people pointed out if he was there in that last minute of the game, maybe he gets that rebound and there's no putback.
Yeah. And I would say, though, I would have to say that I thought they really either missed the call or didn't want to make the call because Zion definitely cleared out with his arm and pushed the guy out of the way. It reminded me of the Michael Jordan play against Utah in the NBA Finals.
Yes.
He created a distinct advantage by moving the guy out. So he gets that 2 points, which puts him within one. He misses the free throw. They follow up and get the dunk, and that's how they win. And, it's I don't know if I'm a referee if you make that call because it also, besides nullifying the basket, it fouls out Zion.
Yes, it does.
And I don't know. It would take a lot of stones to make that call, but it would have been the right call.
And to be fair, UCF didn't block out RJ Barrett on that play. Like, if you watch the replay, like, they didn't block out their man. They went for the rebound. It went long. He grabbed it and put it back up. So, I mean, if they had just played fundamental.
Not blocking out.
Yeah.
Duke did not block out Johnny Dawkins on that tip attempt.
No, not at all.
But I would honestly tell you that having watched that game close up, I think Aubrey Dawkins was the best player on the court.
Even better than Zion, huh?
In that game, yeah. I mean, he took it on his back. I think there was something, his motivation, having grown up there, his father was an assistant coach at Duke. So he was in Durham for a long time growing up and everything. He really he was motivated to show them how good he was, and he was good.
Very good.
He was very special. I think he definitely improved his stock if he decides to come out early. I definitely think I would take a hard look at him. I think he's a really nice player. And I think Taco, I don't know if you might, if you got a couple second round picks, you got to take them.
I think it just in today's NBA with, you can't have even a big 7-footer. You can't have a guy just next to the basket. He's got to be able to stretch out and at least be, good from 15, 20 feet away. It just, with modern NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess for situational basketball, he'd be interesting to have, but
I think somebody will take him in either the second round or somebody will sign him as a free agent. I mean, you have to just see what he could do. And
he'd be a great G League draw,
Yeah, you put him in the G League. He definitely will draw. Or, you put him in NBA Africa, which is starting up. And maybe he's playing against a bunch of other guys from Sudan like him. I don't know. But it was really, really an impressive game. But you know what? It was the only good game I saw. Every other game I saw it had a good half, but not a good game. I was not impressed with Virginia at all.
No.
And I really wasn't impressed with Duke. I don't see Duke or Virginia making the final game.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so at this point. I think Dawkins, too, the coach Dawkins is an interesting story because he's obviously got, the Duke background. Yeah. He played college basketball. He looks really good. Like, is UCF, as an alumnus there, can they keep him as a coach and try to build on this, or are they going to lose him eventually to,
It'll be interesting to see because as everything stands right now, you'd have to believe that if there's going to be one team that's going to get a shot to be in the Big Five, it's UCF.
Yes.
Everything seems to be going their way right now. They got a great athletic director. They've got a couple of really good coaches. And I have to say this, Jason, having been there 9 years ago when there was really no fan base at all, or 16 years ago when I first went there, and now seeing the fans travel, I was actually thinking that if they won, they were going to storm the court. Even though it was an NCAA game and it was really hard to get to the court, I really think they would have stormed the court.
Yes. They've done a great job with tailgating. They've really built up their program. That stadium is fun. The areas surrounding it are fun. Like, they've done a great job there.
Yeah.
But just a matter of, can they get into that Big Five, and then can they keep guys like Dawkins as their coach and not be like the feeder school for, we grab this good coach, we get him for a year or two, he builds a program, then he moves on to, the third best ACC school or big,
Yeah. But I was very impressed with his coaching. I was very impressed with the UCF team. And so Duke and Virginia emerged just like you knew those were going to be the two teams going out of there. They were the two number one seeds. Gonzaga, I like Gonzaga. I just don't think there is a dominant team that you could say is going to win it all right now. I just don't see it.
No, definitely not.
I mean, I would even say Florida State's got a shot.
Well, Florida State is a very unique, big athletic team that made it to, the Final Eight last year?
Mm-hmm.
And they brought back that entire
team. They knocked out Gonzaga last year.
Yeah.
So this is like a big rematch.
Indeed it is. And it kind of sucks because, like you said, there weren't a lot of, March Madness opening weekend games where you got like a great down. I mean, there's some years where, you're flipping channel to channel, watching wire to wire for, end of the second half, great game. We didn't get a lot of that.
No, the best game I watched on TV was Wofford in Kentucky.
Right.
And I really was rooting hard for Wofford. They just, you heard it said a million times, you live by the three, you die by the three. And that's what happened. I mean, that was a low-scoring game. And
our only Cinderella after the first weekend is technically Oregon, which isn't really a Cinderella in my mind, It's a Pac-12 school that has Nike money.
And great uniforms.
Great uniforms.
And a very interesting-looking court.
But it's hard to imagine Oregon being, they're the lowest seed left, and
Yeah. I don't know. It's we said before we got on the air that it's an all chalk tournament pretty much, which still surprised me. I guess Liberty and Oregon were the bracket busters because there's no perfect brackets.
Right.
And we've had perfect brackets longer when there's been more upsets. But there's been fewer upsets this year than I can remember in recent years.
Yeah, and it seemed like even the ones that, as you're following along, it seemed like they were close, like they were never able to get over that hump. Even like the Ivy League school that, played
Yale played very well, lost by 3.
But it never felt like they could. It didn't feel, at least when I watched it, they felt like they were going to win. So
no, because that what it comes down to is it's almost like you're coaching as Belichick. The one thing that you do that you're really dependent upon, if it doesn't work, then you're done.
Exactly.
Offered in the 3. That was a tough thing. And then just the amount of depth. Once you get in foul trouble, or else just get tired.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what happened to Wofford. Wofford is Duke didn't play that many people. I mean, I think that kept that game close too, because Duke was only playing 7 or 8 people.
I don't think surprisingly, they don't have that bit. They're not that deep,
And they're not that big.
No. And their supposed third best player, Reddick, just still doesn't look like, a lottery pick at all,
No.
Or Cam Reddish, sorry, not Reddick. Reddick does, Reddish doesn't.
Yeah. No, really interesting.
Have that one breakout game where we really see something from him, and I just don't think we've seen it.
No. So we got another week of March Madness coming up. We got the opening of baseball season this week. I was talking to my friends out at the Padres today. They're excited about their season. They sold a lot of tickets. It's a great ballpark. I think it'd be kind of fun to watch that go. Red Sox and Yankees are both loaded. The Rays had a 90-win team last year, and they're all back, and they've added some pieces to the Rays. Should be another wide open year. Kudos to my man Mike Trout, the almost $500 million man.
I was about to say, I was like, we got the biggest contract. We saw those big contracts last week, and they were nothing compared to Mike Trout's.
I know. And you know what? He's a guy, if they'd have paid him $500 million, I wouldn't have cared, because to me, he is the epitome. He's worth it. Like I said, the best player I've seen in my lifetime. And plus I like him as a person. Yes, again, they were showing a lot of clips of him this week, showing highlights and everything. But they also showed how part of his routine is that he works his way from left field all the way down the line before he comes in after batting practice to sign autographs for kids. And I've always liked that. I've always been big on that. I mean, he's a humble guy, but I guess we don't ever. Bryce Harper's dream was short-lived. Although I couldn't imagine anybody sinking $700 million into two players.
No, and especially because like I said, we always talked about this a little bit, but baseball feels like it's not. I mean, obviously it's doing as well financially. It has to be, but it just doesn't feel like it's ever in the conversation of sports, at least in these cities I'm in.
No, I mean, it's interesting. We'll see there's a lot of excitement in the offseason with all these big contracts. So now we'll see where it goes. We'll see if how people are excited about it. I know they're always excited on opening day, but let's see what the rest of April brings. Exactly. I think it'll be just like it's been every year. April 10th is always down.
Well, because you got hockey playoffs, March Madness. You got NBA playoffs starting. It's a very exciting time, You
get the Masters. You get everything coming on.
I think there's a big NASCAR event, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I think between the 1st of April and the end of May, there was just so much going on. It's hard to be heard. And, baseball, you're playing games 1 through 30 of 162. And so you're not front and center unless you have a big matchup. There'll be a lot of excitement about playing the game in London, I guess, because it's playing baseball in London. But, is it really that big of a deal? I don't know.
But people have big deals in playing in certain places. We did see Ichiro's final game.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, he went home to Japan and played against major leaguers.
Yeah,
that people hadn't seen, and our friend Jay Wang was at that game, and he was excited. He said he had to go see Ichiro's last game.
Ichiro's been one of my favorite baseball players to watch. So, and it was not. I mean, he didn't really do much in those games, but it was nice seeing him get that recognition. With the love from all the other players, and you could see he was, well respected and liked, and this, Japan went a little crazy for him. It was a really nice moment.
It was a very well respected player, a very solid performer, a very gifted athlete, and an overall a guy that was just kind of didn't make a lot of waves.
And technically, I mean, I know it doesn't count because it's Major League Baseball, but if you count his hits from professional baseball in Japan and Major League Baseball, he does have more hits than Pete Rose, I think.
Yeah, he does.
And he still has over 3,000 in Major League Baseball. So he did quite, but he didn't come over here till he's like 28 or 29. So, but speaking of other giant retirements, the best tight end I've ever seen retired today or yesterday.
Yes. And I have to admit, I was overjoyed. Although I saw today that his agent said, we're not ruling out a comeback.
Right.
Already. I mean, does he kind of premature to throw that out there?
It does, but his agent also proposed that he just sit out until the regular season, and Rob Gronkowski did not want to do that. Having watched him play the last, obviously he could come up with the playoffs and play really well in the playoffs, but he looks old when he runs down. Like he's taken some real beatings.
He has. So you've always speculated about him in the WWE.
Yes.
Do you think he's too beat up to do that, or do you think that he could do that?
I think he'd probably have to take like a year off. I think he might be better off going being in some, WWE has a fairly bizarrely successful movie industry. They have the Marine series where they put John Cena and Randy Orton and AJ Styles, and they bring different professional wrestlers into their little, which is on brand for them. It's like, cheesy action movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I could almost see Rob Gronkowski doing like the Brian Bosworth, I guess technically OJ Simpson, just go right into the,
in the movies.
In the movies. But like at first, like small, is it, the big bad or like a big goofy guy fighting alongside some people, in the beginning, and then seeing if he can expand from there. The WWE, physically, those guys and girls do not get nearly as much credit for all the stuff they go through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a grueling athletic achievement, especially the stuff they do with, jumping off, 15 foot, 20 foot in the air and landing on people. Like,
yeah,
that's an incredible skill. And you can't, because I still pay attention to WWE from time to time, and you can't be old school like Hulk Hogan. You can't, punch, slap, body slam, leg drop. Like, you have guys and girls that are doing, moonsaults off 40-foot cages. Like, you can't, I don't know if Gronkowski can do physically what wrestlers are required to do at this point. But as we said, I can clearly see him, the Patriots are maybe, depending. It's hard to imagine them still not being the best team in NFL. But, like, if they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed, maybe towards the end of the season, he comes back and he ends up on a playoff roster and, comes back for one more run, which we don't want to see. I don't want to see, but.
Well, Gronk is almost like a Marvel superhero.
He is. And like I said, as far as tight ends go, is a guy that could do the entire position, like an inline blocker and catch the ball. Like, I've never seen anybody like him in my lifetime.
I'm not taking anything away from Antonio Gates or
Tony Gonzalez or Shannon. No,
those were receivers.
Those were receivers.
Have to be big receivers playing a tight end position. But Gronk was a true tight end. I would say he's definitely the best tight end I've ever seen.
And if you look at his per game stats, he also beats them as a receiver.
Yeah.
And his touchdowns per game, and he had, 3 Super Bowl wins when he was on that team, along with 12 playoff touchdowns, second to only Jerry Rice. Those are some impressive numbers he put up.
And let's not even talk about how he was against the Steelers.
Really almost everybody.
Yep.
But I just thought, we have to give him a little bit of a shout out because he was, he's an amazing tight end. There's no taking that away from him.
No. So going to the NBA, so the Lakers will not make the playoffs.
They will not.
So LeBron's streak is broken, but I don't know if LeBron really actually believed his team was going to make the playoffs this year.
And Dwayne Wade, his banana boat buddy, came out and pointed out that LeBron James missed 19 games this year and that you can't count that as LeBron missing the playoffs.
Yeah, whatever they want to say.
Whatever they want to say.
But I think he's still pointing to next year. But again, I am less convinced that they're going to be as successful as I thought they were. If you ask me, if we talk about this in September, which we did, when the NBA season was starting, and I said it's all about next year for the Lakers, they're going to be really powerful. But I don't see that now.
No. There's a lot of speculation right now that, there's not that many great big-time free agents to come play with LeBron. Supposedly, Kawhi Leonard is even thinking about staying in Toronto, or if not, more likely the Clippers. I know you look at free agents, you got maybe Kemba Walker, but I don't think he changes, the dynamic of that team very much. You got Jimmy Butler, who seems like not the kind of guy you want on your team. Who else? You got, I think, Chris Middleton, who's a very nice. I don't know, who you got that's going to move the needle if you're LeBron.
Who do you have that is an LA star?
Right.
Anthony Davis, if he would go, and that's it.
But they supposedly they don't want to trade with the Lakers no matter what. So,
Mm-hmm.
And again, it came out that Denver offered a trade, and Denver's got. There's a lot of teams, like obviously if the Celtics are able to hold on to Kyrie Irving and then they trade for Anthony Davis, that's probably the best package they're going to get.
Right.
But you look at other teams like Denver and some other teams that are loaded with young talent and picks, like the Lakers kind of shot themselves. Like LeBron should have been in sell mode. He should have made these guys, if he could have, maybe there's no making them look good. But he should have been trying to raise the stock of Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and all these guys and not make them look bad.
It just has not been a good year. Speaking of Lakers not having a good year, how about your friend Lonzo Ball?
Some interesting stuff. As we talked about off air, there's an Instagram post where he's throwing away his big baller brand shoes, which there's been speculation that the shoes themselves have been, part of the cause of all of his leg injuries. They disassociated themselves first with the businessman, the business partner, who supposedly stole $1.5 million from the venture. And, this is sort of the sadder story, but it looks like, at least on the surface, they're disassociating themselves from Dad Ball, the big baller brand himself, LeVar Ball. There's been deletion of pictures and,
Well, there could be one very positive outcome from all this. Saturday Night Live next week might have LeVar Ball back.
That might be the most positive. But as we talked about off air, I was thinking maybe that, LeVar is I think he's a smarter guy than he probably gets credit for all of his boisterous and craziness. And maybe he realized that he's sort of that him being associated with his kids right now is sort of a negative. And maybe he's trying to help Lonzo and the other guys look a little better. And it's not really hopefully it's not a bad personal situation. It seemed like they were a very close family. And maybe this is just a sly business move to make them, to let them become their own men and hopefully, make their way to the NBA, if you will.
Well, it'll be interesting. We'll see where that one goes.
We have a minor business moment.
Yeah, talk about that.
So Comcast is spending $50 million in South Philly to create the nation's first video game arena. It's a 3,500 seat arena in South Philly, where you said almost all the other stadiums and stuff are, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pictures look really cool. And again, a 3,500 seat arena you could use for some smaller bands and other things too. But that's a big investment in esports and a venue to watch esports in.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be the first of several. It's interesting, like we talked about again offline, that if we'd have said where the first one was going to spring up, I would have said LA, but it didn't. It sprung up in Philadelphia.
Right. I would have said LA or San Francisco, because San Francisco is, sort of the gaming capital of the world, if you will. That's where a lot of the companies are located. That's,
You'd think you'd want to be connected to your Asian markets. In the West Coast, Seattle or wherever it would have been, would have done that. So, but obviously they know better than we do. So,
but
I wish them a lot of luck with this. I hope it's a really good move, and I hope it is able to do the kinds of things that they're hoping it can do in terms of televised events or drawing people as spectators or camps, clinics, whatever they decide to do with it.
And I'll make this our video game couple of minutes right now, because we had some major news this week. Both Apple and, more importantly, Google have thrown their hats in the ring as video game providers. Apple, it looks like it's going to be a lot of smaller games you can sort of play with, on your TV. But Google is going all in. Google is launching something called Stevia, which sounds a lot like stevia, the sweetener. I don't know it seems like a bad marketing term. Nobody seems to really like it.
Is it Stadia or Stevia?
Stevia, I think. Or Stadia.
Okay.
Maybe, Stadia. Sorry, Stadia. Either way, I don't think it's a great term. But they're looking to compete directly with Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. And what they are offering is you'll be able to stream your game. You won't own your games. You won't download the games. You'll be able to stream them on any device, your TV, your laptop, your phone.
So they're not in the hardware business. They're in the streaming business.
In the streaming business, but they are coming out with a controller, which I think would be about $70, and then the Google Chromecast 4K. So if you want to stream your games at 4K, you would have to use the 4K streaming device. So for about $100 of hardware, technically, you can get right into the Google. And they partner with Ubisoft, one of the biggest game makers in the country. It's Assassin's Creed, that's The Division, a lot of those games.
Yep.
But the biggest hurdle of that is it's all streaming, which sounds great, but you need to have at least 25 megabytes per second, which most people in the country do not have currently.
Not until 5G comes along.
Not until 5G comes along or Google Fiber comes along. And then the other thing you worry about.
Well, you know what, Jason, then if you're saying Apple and Google are going to get into this, then I'm going to predict that since AT&T is the 5G developer, I would not be surprised with everything, the media things that AT&T is doing, that AT&T jumps in at some point too.
And there's speculation that Walmart wants to have their own streaming gaming service and that they've got a hidden tech thing they're working on as well.
I mean, I think everybody sees this as a viable path for the future, and everybody wants to figure out how to get a piece of it. And so it just makes sense. I think that it's going to be like anything else. We're going to see a lot of people jump in, and a lot of people are going to fail and jump out, but it won't stop other people from jumping in trying to figure it out.
And that's what people have said about Google, is that you've got, Google Hangouts, which is disappearing, I think, next month. I think there was Google Glass. There has been a lot of Google, we're throwing a lot of money in this. It looks really cool, and we're out. So
I give them credit for not being afraid. They don't sit on the sidelines.
No, they do not.
They're not. And Google and Apple are two of the most powerful companies in the world. So if they're going to get into this, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out for everybody.
It really is. And obviously Microsoft and PlayStation, Nintendo is always going to do their own thing. They don't really care what the rest of the world does. They make fun, quirky games. They're on their own. But, Microsoft offers Game Pass. And for $60 a year, or you can get it for anywhere from $60 to depending on the month. But Game Pass is basically it's like Netflix for games. But you get every Microsoft first party game. So every new Halo, every new Gears of War, every new Forza. Mm-hmm. That's yours seemingly for as long as you subscribe to the service, you get those games. And then they're constantly adding about 50 or 60 games. So you have a rotation of about 80 games a month for, between $15 and $20 a month through their streaming service.
Okay.
So they're all in it. It's just a matter of who can really crack it's really coming down to the available bandwidth we have across the country.
Well, it is. And, that's, it just seems like it's a logical way to attack it.
It is. I mean, it's clearly the future. And I think, again, it's one thing to go out and buy a PlayStation, or buy an Xbox or buy a PC, like make that commitment. But if you already own, let's say, your Google Stick or your Apple TV, and all you're buying is one controller or two controllers for your family, and you can just turn it on like that and you're streaming games.
Yeah.
That could bring in a lot more people into the gaming community. The people that, aren't going to make the commitment of like, I'm going to pay $400 to $500 for a PlayStation. But, if I'm just making, somewhere between $50 and $100 to buy a couple controllers, and then I have access to stream these games. Plus, the one thing Google did not reveal, and nobody seems else to reveal either, is what would be the cost per month for this service.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a subscription-based service like Hulu and everything else.
Right, but I think it has a chance to bring in a lot more people that maybe like video games or liked them in the past, but don't want to commit. Like I said, a $500, or if you're buying PC, $1,000 box. And,
it could start off like for $10 a month you get this, for $20 a month you get this, but for $40 a month you get this.
Right.
Because you're going to see, I was also reading up this week about NFL Sunday Ticket. And so it's going to go, they're figuring out how it's going to be not only on DirecTV. And they're looking at streaming, but they're also looking at smaller packages. Like maybe it's you stream your favorite team, resubscribe to your favorite team, or like the NBA did, you buy the fourth quarter or whatever you buy. But
how long have I been begging
trying to
my Steeler package,
Yeah, you're trying to figure out all these ways to get the cord cutters involved in something. Since you have the content, how can you deliver the content to them? So it's interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, we will. Well, as we reach,
I had two food moments.
Let's hear them.
Well, I have decided that South Carolina might be the barbecue buffet capital of the world.
Okay.
So I went to Piggy Park for a buffet on Thursday when we landed in Columbia. And it was good. It wasn't over the moon. But then yesterday we went to Three Pigs. And Three Pigs had pork, but they had vinegar-based pork, they had mustard-based pork, and they had tomato ketchup, based pork. They had all three. They had ribs. They had fried chicken. They had turkey. They had ham. They had beef. They had an assortment of vegetables and an assortment of desserts for the low price with tax, $10.67.
That's pretty incredible.
And it was really good. So I was real happy with my barbecue buffets over the weekend in South Carolina.
Very nice. Well, I haven't had a food moment in a while, but I did go see Us in the theater, the new Jordan Peele movie.
And you usually don't go to the theater.
I do not go to the theater very often, no. I usually wait for it to come out on streaming services and just watch it there.
Yep.
despite the fact that I work in the film and television industry, I just don't make it out very often. But I figured based on Get Out and the way Jordan Peele is as director, he's one of the few directors I get really excited about. And I wanted to see it before the conversation started and it went a little crazy. Because, I mean, today I probably read like 15 articles on the meaning of us and, different symbols. And there's a lot of stuff in that movie to unpack. I would say I did not enjoy it, at least right now. I do want to watch it again when it comes out on streaming services. I don't really want to talk about it this week because it just came out and I don't know how many people have had a chance to see it. But I definitely recommend seeing it. But it's not Get Out, that's for sure. I mean, obviously it's not Get Out, but I don't think it's the same level of film as Get Out. Like, I thought Get Out should have won Best Picture of the year that it came out. And even though it's early in the year, I can't imagine this being in that same conversation. But still a very interesting movie and some really cool stuff in it. So
did he make this for $20 million?
I don't know what he made it for.
Somebody told me he made it for $20 million. And this weekend it grossed 80.
It definitely did.
I mean, I think he's earned people's trust already as a filmmaker.
Certainly.
I think he has taken on some subjects that people weren't willing to take on. And I think he's got an ethnic targeting market that is second to none. He's like the FUBU of movies.
Yes. I mean, if you listen to him talk about horror movies, I mean, he went back through the entire catalog of horror movies. Like, he can discuss The Shining and different, and Rosemary's Baby and, Last House. He knows horror really well. So, as somebody that's making scary movies, like you trust, you really trust him as a filmmaker as well.
And this is something he said he'd always wanted to do, was to make a really scary movie.
Yes. I don't know.
I'll have to go see it.
This has a few jump scares, obviously,
I love jump scares.
But I wouldn't consider, and like I said, it's got a lot to unpack. So when you watch it, there's a bunch of really good articles on Slate and even The Ringer where people are sort of giving their interpretation of the movie. And it's definitely one of those movies after you watch it, you want to go talk to people about it. See what they thought, Because again, he doesn't just make scary. Like there is, quote unquote message or, he's not just trying to, scare you.
Right.
And the performances are great in this movie too. Even Peggy Mad Men has a nice little role. So,
okay. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Good movie recommendation for you if you're tired of March Madness this weekend, or you just need a break. Go out. There's fewer games this weekend, so you can do both.
I think you can definitely do both. Or see them, see it during the week. I think it's under 2 hours, so. Definitely worth checking out. I'll leave it at that. And maybe in a few weeks, if you've seen it by then, we can discuss it at some point.
Yeah, I'll make sure I see it.
Yeah. And we're both very excited about the Pet Sematary remake.
We are.
Because if you haven't seen that trailer yet, that trailer looks really good.
So I'm looking forward to that too.
Yes, indeed. So once again, as we ask almost every episode, please go to iTunes and rate us. It really, really does help. And it doesn't cost you anything, just even if you just give us the stars and don't even write anything, but if you could at least write, great podcast or good podcast, whatever you feel like writing would really help us.
Yeah. A lot of you people send me an email, say you love the podcast, but please go rate it for us.
And then, once again, we should probably thank them every week, but thank you to all our Patreon supporters currently. And, please come join us as a Sutton family member and, contribute to the show. And hopefully we can continue to, I think we've improved the audio quality this year and we've, slowly adding some guests and some things along those lines, but, it really does help. So, great. Perfect. So until next week.